Hello, welcome to Miss Peepers Reading Corner. I'm Katrina, aka Miss Peepers. Let's talk about books. 2024, as I'm filming this, is very nearly over. Probably when you see this, it will be 2025. Almost definitely when you see this, it'll be 2025. And so I thought I'd do a little bit of a wrap up of the previous year and talk about my plans, bookish related plans for the new year. So grab a blanket, a cup of tea. If you're interested, I'm drinking Bohemian Breakfast, which is a black tea from Magic Hour. This is not sponsored, although if you do marketing for Magic Hour, call me. Delicious, nice, robust wake up blend, because as the year is coming to a close, I'm tired, y'all. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has so many things going on at the end of the year, and 2024 for the most part actually was a pretty good year for me, although we didn't land at the end so much as crash, which, to quote Doctor Who, is a sort of a landing, but not the one we wanted. So first, a quick reflection on 2024. So for me, like I said, it was actually a pretty good year, particularly when it comes to bookish things, because this is the year that I started my channel back in January of 2024. I cannot believe that it's been an entire year. I also cannot believe that I've kept this up for an entire year. And that just shows you how much I'm enjoying this, because for me, I'm often someone who will get really into something for a bit and then get really into something else. So the fact that I've held on to this and I'm excited to continue it in the new year, that's pretty great. I didn't have any specific goals for the channel other than to start it and see where it took me, and where it took me this year was pretty great. I have over 150 subscribers. We're holding pretty steady around that number, which is very exciting. Love that. Thank you if you subscribe. Thank you if you're thinking about subscribing. And I'm very proud of the banned book series that I did in October, which was a lot more work than I was expecting, but it was a lot of fun to do, and you all seem to enjoy it, so I'll take that as a win. I also finished decorating my library, not just the side that you can see frequently on the camera, but the other side as well. My whole library space feels very chill and zen, and I really just love this space. And then I also started to get involved in the booktube community a bit. For example, I did the amazing readathon. I didn't actually film that. I'd love to do it again next year, assuming it happens next year. I have no reason to believe it won't, and if I do, I will film it. But that was a lot of fun, just joining a team of readers on Discord and sharing what we were reading and encouraging each other to read as many books as possible. My team did not win, but we did very well, and I'm proud of us, and that's the most important thing. So my personal reading, I read 100 books in 2024. At this point, I'm close enough to the end of the year that I'm not going to finish another book before January. It's just a couple days away. I know myself, I know what I've got going on this week, but I feel really good about that number. I know if you watch a lot of booktube channels, as I do, you'll hear all sorts of numbers for end of year. And a lot of booktubers read 200-300 books, or even just breaking 100 it sounds like a lot to me. There are lots of ways that people do that. Some people just read faster. A lot of people listen to audiobooks, which is still reading. It still counts as reading, but it allows you to read while you're doing other things that don't require your entire brain power. So when you're driving to work or doing the dishes or taking a walk or whatever. And so that more reading time means more reading. And then some people just read smaller books or larger books, or like there's so many different reasons. And mainly what I want to say to you is that no matter how many books you read this year, even if you didn't finish a single book this year, but you read part of a book, or maybe you just started reading this week because you haven't read, for fun for a while, whatever the case, you are winning because you are reading the amount of books that you want to read. And you definitely don't want to compare yourself to someone who has a channel dedicated to talking about the books that they read. That person is going to be incentivized to read a lot more. And for me specifically, I read 80 books last year. I think 81 last year, and 80 the year before, and then 60 the year before that. And then the year before that, I only read like 13 or 14. So while I've always been a lifelong reader, I dropped off of reading regularly as adult life took over, as I got busy with things, as I had more responsibilities, as stress made my brain not want to focus on something, but rather to be distracted, I started reading regularly again and also writing down what I was reading. That coincided with the year that I decided to start journaling on a regular basis. And I don't journal as regularly as I did then, but I do still track how many books I read. It's really nice to see that at the end of the year, to see how much you've done, because sometimes at the end of a year, especially if you've had a lot going on, if you have a lot of holiday responsibilities and also fun things as well, but holidays can be a responsibility, a lot of travel, it can sometimes feel in those last couple of weeks of December like you didn't get anything done. And that's one thing that you can point to. If you write it down, it's something you can point to and say, if nothing else, I read. And that's a beautiful thing. And I'm sure that once you start there, you will realize you did a lot more during the course of the year, because a year is a long time. But in addition to reading books, I also acquired books. And this is going to be my segue into my 2025 goals. I acquired over 150 books. Now, when I say acquire, this is me going out and choosing a book to bring it back to my home. And I say acquired as opposed to purchase, because some of these books came from little free libraries. Others I did buy, some used, some new, kind of a mix. I love books, as you can tell. I love having books around me. 150 is a bit much though, and that does not include books that were gifted to me by my very kind friends and family who know that books are what I want. I'm not counting that because I can't control whether people give me books or not. And I certainly don't want to tell someone, don't buy me books. So as we segue into 2025, what do I want to do in the new year when it comes to bookish goals? Of course, I have non-bookish goals as well, just as I have non-bookish accomplishments, but that's not why we're here. My bookish goals, the first one is, or the first couple, are related to having brought in so many new books into my collection, new to me books. And that is twofold. One, for the first half of the year, and this is going to be really hard, I'm not going to buy any books. I'm not going to acquire any books. I'm not going to stop at little free libraries unless I'm putting something into it. I'm not going to take anything out, and that's going to be the hardest. I'm not going to go to used bookstores because therein danger lies. And so from January 1st to June 30th, we're not buying any books. We're not acquiring any books. We're not bringing any books into the home. Again, I'm not controlling what other people gift me. If someone gifts me a book, I'm not going to refuse it because, that's not nice. But at the end of June, we'll see where we are. We'll lift the ban, probably, assuming I do well. And then we'll go from there. We'll reassess and see if I want to continue it for the rest of the year or relax it at that point. While I am on this book ban, because I have plenty of books, I've watched a number of wrap-up videos that have already been posted, and of course I've seen them in previous years as well. But one thing that often makes me chuckle to myself, and we're all in different places, and we all have different expectations for our own personal space, our home space. But so many booktubers are like, oh, I've got so many physical TBR books in my house, so many. I've got like 40. I've got 60. And if that feels like a lot to you, I'm not going to tell you it shouldn't. Like, we all have our different limits and we all have different amounts of space. I have 360. I believe the exact number is 363, if I remember correctly. I have a lot of books that I have not read. And those are non-read. Physical books that live in my house. I want to read that list down. And I do read books from my physical TBR. I don't just buy new books and only read those, or buy new books and not read them because they just sit on my shelf. But I want to make a specific point to do that. And so with that in mind, I created a TBR mug. And this is my Alice in Wonderland. Here we go. Let's get the glare off there. This is my Alice in Wonderland mug here. Felt appropriate. It's also a nice big one. This is not all of the books that I have not read in my physical TBR, but what I did was I took all of the oldest books, the books I've had the longest, and I used Goodreads to do this, and I'm still using Goodreads. I know a lot of people have moved on to Storygraph or other things. I'm locked in. I can't. I don't want to deal with the transition to a new system, and I certainly don't want to use more than one. So we're in Goodreads still, but I started my Goodreads account in 2022, in the summer of 22, and so I took all of the books that I entered at that time that are still in my to be read section, and then I also added a couple more because I made a little page in Canva and had some extra space. So this has just shy of 100 books. I think it's like 98 books in it. And so what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to read only from these, but I want to prioritize the books from here. And so by making it a TBR mug, we're randomizing a little bit. As I was going through the books that I had and making these little slips of paper, I noticed a couple of things. One, a lot of the books are nonfiction. Specifically, many of the nonfiction books are business related or like workplace related. Some of them I know I started to read and then stopped. A number of them, I know I did this in 2020, the year that never was. And so it was, oh, this is a great idea. I'm going to read this. I'm going to, learn something new. And then my brain just couldn't do it. And so I'm going to give those books another chance. Maybe those books just need to go. Maybe they're not for me, and that's okay. But so those are in here. I have quite a bit of fiction as well, of course. There are a couple of books here, and these are not all books that I got in 2022. There's some books in here that I've had for 10, 15 years and still haven't read yet. So what you gonna do? That's why we're gonna tackle this list. And so part of this goal is I want to reduce my total physical TBR by at least 40 books this year. And I think that is entirely reasonable, particularly given that I'm not going to buy books for the first half of the year, but that also takes into account if I do buy books in the second half of the year, whatever my total is compared to what I've read down. I want it to be about 40 books less. So we should be in the 320s. I'll get the exact numbers on the screen, and that will be the goal that we work towards. And I really do want to cut this oldest TBR in half, approximately, at least. It'd be great to get through all of it this year, but I don't want to put that kind of pressure on myself because I am a mood reader, so I don't want to be like forcing myself to slog through these books. But we're gonna go ahead. Let's pull a book. What's the first book? All right, All Systems Red by Martha Wells. Let me go grab it because I know I've got it. I think it's on the other shelf. There it is. Found it. Okay, that was fun. All Systems Red by Martha Wells. This is the first book in the Murderbot Diaries, which I've heard so much about. People love these books. I still have not read them. And this is a nice short one. This is a futuristic book about a droid that seems to have achieved some sentience, something like that. Anyway, I'm excited. And the TBR mug has spoken. So I probably will not film every pull from the mug because that will probably get a bit tiresome. But rest assured that I will be pulling from this. I typically have a few books going at once. So my thought is when I finish a TBR mug book, I'll pull another one and so on and so forth. And we'll just see how it goes. Other than continuing my channel, which of course is on my goals list, the other thing that I want to get into more is reading sprints, not just participating in reading sprints, although I do want to do that more. So I'm setting myself a goal of participating in one set of sprints hosted by somebody else weekly. There's always somebody hosting reading sprints. So if this is something you're interested in, or if you're newer to BookTube and don't know what that means is basically it's a space where someone live streams and everybody reads together for a bit, and then you pause and you chat for a bit and then you read again. And it gives people an opportunity to work on, to like have some quiet time and kind of co-work. And I also want to host reading sprints starting this year. So the date of the first one is TBD, but I'd love to do them monthly this year and then see how that goes. So I'll get back to you on the details for that. I need to look at my calendar. I need to figure out when would be a good time to do it. And I recognize that I can't meet everybody's schedule. I'm a smaller channel. Not everyone's gonna be here. And that's okay. If it's just me and one or two other people, whatever, let's do it. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I've wanted to do that for a while. I did a really hard thing for me in 2024, which was start this channel. So now I'm gonna do a new hard thing for me, which is go on a live stream. And then you can find out just how much editing I do on these videos, because I am awkward and tend to repeat myself and use a lot of filler words, and we'll just see how it goes. But my hope is that by doing more live streaming, I can become more comfortable talking in front of the camera, which is still awkward for me. But because it's live, it's out there at that point. Maybe that'll make me a little bit more comfortable making videos as well. And maybe I won't have to edit as much. We'll see. One can always hope. Let me know what your bookish goals are for 2025, what your bookish accomplishments were for 2024, or any other accomplishments or goals you want to share. They don't have to be book related. Whatever goals you set for yourself, I hope that they are meaningful to you, and that's the most important thing. Only compare yourself to yourself or your past self. Keep reading, and I will see you in the next one.